The Vietnam War spanned 2 decades, from 1955 to 1975, and was a grueling conflict deeply rooted in ideology, nationalism, and geopolitical tension. While much is said about the war itself, the role and tactics of the Viet Cong, often overlooked or simplified, tell a complex and brutal story. Their relentless strategies, shaped by guerrilla warfare and a deep-seated resolve, left an indelible mark on the conflict. The Viet Cong, officially known as the National Liberation Front, emerged as a decentralized yet formidable force aligned with Communist North Vietnam. They drew support from soldiers, farmers, students, and workers who were united by the goal of overthrowing the South Vietnamese government and expelling foreign influence, particularly from the United States. Their cause was built on nationalism and anti-imperialism, portraying themselves as liberators fighting oppression. But their methods, while effective, were often ruthless. One of the most infamous aspects of the Viet Cong's tactics was their expertise in guerrilla warfare. They turned Vietnam's dense jungles into a living nightmare for opposing forces, with booby traps being a prime example of their resourcefulness and cruelty. Among these traps were pungi stakes, sharpened bamboo sticks hidden in the ground, often coated with poison or animal waste. These stakes inflicted not only severe physical injuries, but also life-threatening infections. Then there were devices like the Bouncing Betty, a mine designed to launch into the air before exploding at waist level, causing devastating injuries. The Toe Popper, another trap, was a small, almost invisible mine that maimed soldiers' feet or legs, severely hindering their ability to move. These traps were more than physical threats. They were psychological weapons. Every step could be a fatal mistake, turning the jungle into an unrelenting battlefield of fear and uncertainty. Another critical component of the Viet Cong strategy was their extensive network of tunnels. These tunnels, initially constructed during resistance against French colonial forces, evolved into underground complexes stretching for miles, especially in areas like Cu Chi, northwest of Saigon. These hidden passages provided the Viet Cong with a tactical advantage, allowing them to move undetected, launch surprise attacks, and evade capture. Inside these tunnels were entire communities, medical facilities, sleeping quarters, weapons storage, and kitchens, all operating out of sight of enemy forces. Life underground, however, was harsh. The tunnels were cramped, poorly ventilated, and plagued by disease. Food and water were scarce, and the conditions took a severe toll on those who lived there. Yet, for the Viet Cong, the ability to hide and fight from beneath the ground proved indispensable. The construction and maintenance of these tunnels often involved local villagers, many of whom were coerced into helping. For some, aiding the Viet Cong was an act of loyalty, but for many others, it was a matter of survival. Villagers who refused to cooperate risked severe punishment, and entire communities lived under constant threat. Their homes were often requisitioned to store weapons or hide fighters, and they were forced to make unimaginable sacrifices. This relationship between the Viet Cong and the local population was complicated. While some villagers supported the communist cause, others found themselves trapped between the demands of the Viet Cong and the dangers posed by South Vietnamese or US forces. The constant fear of retribution from either side created an atmosphere of mistrust and despair. The Viet Cong's influence extended beyond military operations. They sought to reshape society by targeting landowners, religious leaders, and anyone perceived as part of the capitalist elite. Land redistribution was a cornerstone of their ideology, often forcing wealthy landowners to surrender their property. Those who resisted faced relocation, imprisonment, or execution. Religious figures were also seen as obstacles to the Viet Cong's vision of a socialist state. Religious gatherings were restricted, and outspoken leaders were silenced, sometimes violently. This campaign of intimidation left villages fractured, with community leaders either eliminated or forced to comply. The psychological toll of living under Viet Cong control was immense, especially for children who grew up witnessing violence and upheaval. Families faced heart-wrenching choices when the Viet Cong came to recruit their loved ones. Sons and daughters were often taken with little training and sent directly into battle, their futures sacrificed to a cause they had no say in joining. For the Viet Cong, anyone loyal to the South Vietnamese government or cooperating with US forces was an enemy. This led to what became known as the Terror Campaign. Community leaders, teachers, police officers, and government officials were systematically targeted. Public executions, kidnappings, and brutal intimidation tactics were used to eliminate opposition and instill fear. These acts were often carried out during public trials, where the accused were labeled as traitors and punished in front of their communities. The goal was clear: suppress dissent and force compliance. Entire families could be branded as collaborators, facing dire consequences as a warning to others. Captured US soldiers experienced the full extent of the Viet Cong's harsh methods. Torture, forced labor, and psychological manipulation were common, designed to break their will and extract information. One of the most notable accounts comes from Senator John McCain, who was captured in 1967 after his plane was shot down. McCain endured over 5 years as a prisoner of war, facing physical and mental torment, including solitary confinement and inadequate medical care. Despite the immense suffering, he refused to fully cooperate with his captors, a testament to his resilience. Stories like his highlight the severe conditions faced by POWs, many of whom carried the scars, both physical and emotional, for the rest of their lives. The Viet Cong also used captured soldiers as propaganda tools. The infamous Hanoi March paraded American POWs through the streets to demonstrate the Viet Cong's strength and demoralize US forces. Such public displays were calculated to weaken American resolve and bolster their own cause. The fall of Saigon on April 30th, 1975, marked the culmination of the Viet Cong's efforts and the end of the Vietnam War. North Vietnamese tanks rolled into the city, and the Viet Cong played a pivotal role in the final assault. The collapse of South Vietnamese defenses led to a chaotic evacuation, with thousands of civilians and soldiers desperately fleeing. In the aftermath, Vietnam was reunified under communist control, officially becoming the Socialist Republic of Vietnam in 1976. However, the transition was fraught with challenges, as the North sought to impose its political and economic systems on the South. For many families, the pain of the war lingered. Lost loved ones, divided loyalties, and trauma that would span generations. The Viet Cong's legacy is one of both triumph and tragedy. Their strategies, while effective, came at a tremendous human cost. They saw themselves as liberators, but their actions left scars on the people they claimed to fight for. The Vietnam War may have ended decades ago, but its impact remains deeply etched in the history and memory of the Vietnamese people. If this video caught your interest, you'll want to check out our video on the terrifying job of M60 machine gunners in Vietnam. It dives into the intense challenges faced by these soldiers, the brutal realities of their role, and the incredible resilience they had to muster in one of the most dangerous positions in the war.